Alrighty guys, welcome back to the channel. My name's James if you're new here. Unfortunately, we've been having some pretty crappy weather here in Pensacola for the past couple of days, so I haven't really had the opportunity to get out on the water and film much fishing content for you guys. Hopefully that'll change soon, but I like to take the opportunity on crappy weather days to hang around the garage, make some modifications, improvements, that kind of thing to the kayak, organize fishing tackle, work on video footage, that kind of thing. So I've got a little project I'm just about to get started on. I thought I would take the opportunity to share it with you guys. Hopefully it's something that'll help you out. Hopefully you'll find it useful. You can apply it in your everyday applications while you're out on the water, and hopefully it will improve your kayaking experience. If you guys saw that last video upload, we finally took the kayak offshore for the very first time. We went out to Navarre Beach, a couple miles out, hit the reefs, caught some snapper, caught some triggerfish. It was a ton of fun, but while we were out there, I noticed a couple small, minor inconveniences about my kayak, the way that I have it set up, that could be improved upon to make the experience just that much better and that much easier for myself while we're out there on the water. The biggest thing that I noticed was the fact that due to the sun beating down on us all day long, I could not for the life of me see the screen on my Fishfinder. I mean, it was bad. I was having trouble like seeing anything. Being able to see your Fishfinder is going to be extremely important if you're trying to get yourself centered over a reef, you're trying to see fish that you're going to catch. So the project that we are going to work on in this video is going to be creating a sunshade for my Fishfinder. Now obviously I already have one on here, and I actually have a second one here. Both of these are prototypes that I created yesterday. I took a couple of hours, cut some plastic up, bent it into shape just to kind of get an idea and see if it's something that I was able to do, and it definitely is. It worked out pretty well. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to create a final version that's hopefully going to be a little bit prettier than this one, and I'm gonna walk you guys through and show you how to do it. That way, if you guys are in the market for a sunshade for your Fishfinder, you can follow this process along, create one for yourself. And the beauty about doing it this way is it is cheap, it's effective, it's super simple, and who doesn't love a good, fun DIY project on a rainy day when you can't get out on the water? So there are a couple of materials. Actually, there's only one material that you're gonna need for this. I chose to use the plastic from a Rubbermade tote. Any tote like this is gonna work. I went to Walmart, I picked up this 20-gallon tote for I think $8. And the other reason that I went with the 20-gallon size, aside from being so cheap for so much plastic, is the fact that the length of it is gonna be perfect. Is you wanna make sure that you get something dark, black, navy blue, dark gray, something like that. If you get light colors like light blue, white, that sort of thing, it's gonna reflect off of your screen just like the light will. So you guys can kind of see right now, the clouds are reflecting off the screen. If you put a white shade over the top of that screen, it's gonna look just like that, and it's probably gonna be worse than it originally was without the shade on it. So get yourself something dark. The other reason I went with the Rubbermaid style tote is the plastic is just thick enough that it's going to hold its form. It's going to be relatively sturdy, but it's just thin enough that it's easy to work with. Once you heat it up, it becomes pretty malleable. You can bend it to the shape that you want, and then once it cools off, it's going to hold that shape and pull itself up pretty well. Also, you're going to need only a couple of tools. You're going to need a razor cutter. You're going to need something to mark with. Sharpie works well, pencil works well. Something to measure with. I've just got a little tape measure here. Heatgun. So this is probably going to be the most expensive and hard to come by portion of this project. If you don't have access to a heat gun, or you don't want to spend the $30 to buy a heat gun, you can use a hair dryer, and it's actually going to get hot enough that you're going to be able to work this plastic fairly well. You're going to need a file, and then the final thing that you're going to need for this project is going to be some kind of adhesive to hold the sunshade that we're going to make onto the unit. So when I did my prototype, I used a double-sided tape. It's made by this T-Rex brand. I've got to say, I'm not super impressed with that brand. You can see that overnight this started peeling off, and if I really want to, I can just rip this right off there. I'm going to give this a try. You can pick this up at Lowe's in the carpet and flooring section, and what this actually is it is an extremely strong double-sided tape that you actually use for putting down laminate flooring. There's just strands of glue coming off of this, and it even sticks to my oily fingers like really well. So this stuff is extremely adhesive, and I think it's probably going to work pretty well. All right, let's get into it, guys. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is we need to figure out how much plastic we're going to need. So we're going to have to figure out lengthwise up the two sides, as well as across the top of the unit. That way we've got optimal sun protection coming from all three sides. And we need to figure out how far out we want the shade to stick over the top of the screen. The easiest way to do this is take your tape measure, latch it onto the bottom of the side, and then you can just kind of wrap it all the way around the unit, just like that. And it looks like we're gonna need about 15.5 inches lengthwise to go all the way around the unit. So the next thing that we need to figure out is gonna be how far we want that shade to stick out over the top of the screen. We're gonna go with 3.5 inches for the Helix 5. So if we measure that out, 3.5 inches is going to be about right here where my finger is. So if we put that shade on there just like that, you guys can see how far that shade actually sticks out over the screen. And I think that's gonna be just about perfect for me. So we're going to actually use the lid from this tote, and I've still got the perfect little amount of space here. So let's measure that out real quick. 3.5 inches right there. So this is gonna work out very, very nice. Obviously I've already got my length. I'm just gonna go ahead and make my marks right here. And we're gonna measure out 3.5 inches on either side. All right, next step here is gonna be connect the dots. So just go ahead, there you go. Sweet. We've got our general shape marked out. So the next step is going to be to take our razor knife, and we're gonna cut that rectangle out now. So you should be able to just lean this off the edge of the table. And if you are pulling the knife towards yourself like I am, be very, very cautious that you do not slip that blade out. Keep your body to the side of where you're cutting. That way if you do slip, the knife goes past you and doesn't go straight into your gut. Connect the two. So push that razor knife through and very, very slowly and carefully work it right down that straight line. Again, try to keep it as straight as possible. That way you're not gonna have to do a whole bunch of correction work and trim it up to straighten it out after we're done. And there it is. That should do the job just perfectly. Once you're happy with your overall shape, take your file and you can start working the edges down, and this is what's really going to give you that nice final rectangular shape. If you've got any areas kind of protruding, you can kind of take that file and it should file off real easy. And then once you've got your overall shape, perfect rectangle, you're happy with it, just go ahead, take that file and smooth those edges down. That way you don't have any rough cut marks and it's not sharp, which is going to help you not cut yourself while you're hitting the buttons on your Fishfinder. All right, cool. Just place your Fishfinder right on the plastic. Just get it about visually even with each end and go ahead and make a mark on either side just like that. When you do that, it's important to leave yourself just a little bit of space. So if I line this Fishfinder back up between the marks, you guys can kind of see, if you look real closely right here, that there is just about 1/8 of an inch gap between the mark and the edge of the Fishfinder. And the reason for that is when you bend this plastic, you're actually going to lose some of the surface area right here to that curvature of the plastic. So you want to make sure that you account for that. That way it bends perfectly around the side of the Fishfinder and it's not too short across the top. Here, take a straight edge and go straight across just like that. Next step is going to be a heat gun. We're going to heat this up on the corner. Once we get it nice and hot, it should become malleable enough that we can bend it down. And then once it cools, it's going to hold that shape. And just start slowly getting that heated up. So you're going to want to heat this plastic up until you see it start turning shiny like it is right now. Get it shiny all the way across, and then once it is shiny, that means that it is hot enough, so you can go ahead and start bending it around the edge of the table, just like that. And then once it bends to about 45 degrees, I like to just go ahead and put it on the table, and you should be able to bend it the rest of the way. If you feel like it's gonna break, heat it up more. Don't be afraid to heat it up. The only problem is if you heat it up too much, it could just melt all the way through. So don't heat it too much, but get it hot enough to where you can easily work it without stressing it to the point of breaking. And there we go. Perfect 90-degree angle. That looks really, really good. You start heating the plastic up until it starts turning shiny, and you'll see this end of the plastic starting to bend down. That's what we're looking for. Bend that right around the edge of the table till it's about 45 degrees. pop it up on the table and you should be able to bend it right into a perfect 90-degree angle. There we go, 2 perfect 90-degree angles. Let's get the Fishfinder and make sure it lines up. If it doesn't, it's not a big deal. You can take your heat gun, you can heat it back up, bend it back out, and then rebend it where you need. All right, awesome. So we've got the general shape of our sunshade now. It lines up perfectly on both sides. And this side here is just a touch longer than the other side, so we're gonna trim about 1/4 inch off of that. That looks perfect. That's gonna work out really well for us. Now the next thing that we need to account for is specifically on the Hummingbird units, you do have a port on the side right there that you can actually put a micro SD card in. So it's gonna be pretty important that we keep that freed up. We don't wanna cover that up. So we're gonna cut a little access port in the side of this. That way we can still open that up and access our SD card slot if we have to. So the easiest way to do that is set the Hummingbird on there where it's gonna go, and then just pull it backwards just enough to where you can see that port come into view, and then you should just be able to take your Sharpie and make a mark on either side of it, just like that. And we'll mark that out. Nice little rectangle here. And then you should be able to take your razor knife and cut that open. Perfect. I want to get that nice little bevel on the side. That way when it fits onto the screen here, it's just not this bulky square on the side. It's got that nice little triangular kind of shape to it. That's gonna be the back of the unit. The screen's gonna be facing this direction. So we're going to line up a straight edge, and on the back side of the unit we want to make sure that we leave enough room here to affix it to the side. So the side of this unit is about 1 inch thick, so we're going to leave about 1 inch worth of plastic on the back of this so we can affix it to the unit. And we're going to take our straight edge and we'll just make a nice little line right there, and just real slowly and carefully follow that line down. Okay, so we've got our sides cut. The last step here, before this is pretty much done and ready to be affixed to the unit, is I'm gonna take my file and I'm just gonna start working some of these corners. We've got lots and lots of sharp corners on here. I don't want things on the kayak that I could potentially cut myself on or have line get hung up on or whatever. So we're gonna start filing some of those sharp edges down, make this thing nice and smooth, make it look pretty. And then we will be ready to get it set up on the Fishfinder. All right, and that is pretty much it. Before we put any tape on here, we're gonna do a quick dry fit. Just set it up on there, make sure that it's going to fit correctly, which it looks like it does. So if we cut this stuff in half, it should work out perfect. So we're just going to cut it right on the roll here. I think that's probably going to be the easiest thing because this stuff is super, super sticky. And we should be able to stick this stuff right to the side of the Fishfinder. Make sure it's on there nice and tight. I think this stuff is going to work for us really well. So I'm going to go all the way around the unit, get this stuff on there, and then we will put the sunshade on and see how well this stuff is going to stick. Let's go ahead and get it into our sunshade and see how well this adhesive is going to work. Hopefully it sticks. Alrighty guys, there is our final product. I am pretty stoked with how this DIY sunshade turned out on the Hummingbird Helix 5. I'm probably going to use some pretty fine sandpaper and just clean up these edges a little bit more so we don't have this rough stuff hanging off there. But other than that, this thing looks awesome. Also, the adhesive choice this time I think is going to be quite a bit better. It seems like it is adhering that plastic pretty well, so I don't think we're gonna have many problems with it. I'm gonna put it on the kayak and show you guys real quick. And there's also a couple other really small minor modifications that I've made to the boat over the past couple of days that will hopefully help enhance my experience out on the water and help us hook up on more fish. So I'm gonna show you guys those real quick as well, just for fun. Hopefully it'll give you guys a couple ideas for your own kayak project, and then we will close the video out. So the first little modification that I made that I'm going to show you guys real quick is just this simple rod holder right there next to my seat. So having a rod holder next to my seat that I can easily access and drop a rod in whenever I need is absolutely critical. I find myself all the time, multiple times throughout an outing, not having a spot to put my rod. Other reason that I wanted a rod holder next to the seat is for trolling situations. I really don't like the idea of having to turn around and grab that rod real quick out of a holder back here if a fish grabs my bait. And the other thing is I use bait casters pretty often. This particular one does actually have a drag clicker on it, but most bait casters do not have a drag clicker, and the problem with that is if it's behind you, maybe you're making all kind of noise, you're talking to your buddy or whatever else, and you're trolling along, and a fish grabs that bait, he's just going to be peeling line, and the reel is going to be pretty much silent. You're going to have absolutely no idea until it gets all the way to the end of your line if you're not paying attention. And honestly, guys, I don't pay attention a lot of the time. That's just me. So I like having my rod right next to me. That way I can see it without having to turn all the way around at a super awkward angle. And if a fish grabs it, I can yank it out of that holder real quick, and we're all good to go. I also added a rod leash to my seat. I just kind of hooked it on there. It just lives right there, right next to my nippers, and I can leash that rod up that way if I forget to set my drag or something else stupid, which I do sometimes, and a fish yanks it out of the holder, it's leashed off, and that's not a problem. So Old Town has this perfect little spot where I mounted the holder. If you guys look down in there, there's this perfect little vertical flat surface where the back of the seat sits on top of. Because of how much room is between the seat and the hull of the boat here, if you angle that rod holder just right, you've actually got plenty of elbow room. I can move my arms around, I can grab the rod real easy, I can put it in the holder real easy, and it's just kind of the perfect position. So I'm really stoked that I kind of started experimenting and trying to figure out where I could put a rod holder, and I found that that rod holder fits perfectly in that spot. So there's an idea for you guys. If you're like me and you're kind of bummed out that you don't have a rod holder right next to your seat on the pre-2019 models, there you go, rod holder next to the seat. The next thing that I want to show you guys real quick is this strip of Gorilla Tape that runs all the way around the hull of my kayak, and it's got this little bulge in the middle, and what that bulge is it's actually a piece of garden hose. The point of this is to protect the hull of the kayak against oyster rash. If you're a guy like me, I live here in Northwest Florida. I do a lot of bridge piling fishing, and all of those bridge pilings are just totally encrusted with razor sharp oysters. And the thing that sucks about those oysters is they make great sheep's head bait, but they are not good for the plastic on your hull. The second you get bumped up against that piling, it's just gonna put all kind of gouges and gashes in the plastic of your kayak. And if you have an extremely expensive boat like the Old Town Predator, Hobie Outback, Native Slayer, any of those boats that are in that like $2,000 to $3,000 to $4,000 range, the last thing that you want is to damage the hull of your kayak, especially because that's going to be out of warranty. It's not going to be included. You're just going to be out of luck. And some of those gashes can get very deep and actually like severely damage the integrity of the hull. That's the last thing that you want. So this is a super cheap and easy way to kind of prevent that. I think I spent like $12 on a 50-foot section of light duty garden hose at Walmart, and I spent like maybe $18 for 2 rolls of Gorilla Tape, and just went crazy with it. The nice thing about it is once that garden hose and tape gets all gashed up and it's time to replace it, you can just peel the whole thing off, slap a new one on there, and you're all good to go. So it looks kind of silly, but I would rather the boat look silly than not be usable anymore, especially since there's no way that I will be able to replace an expensive boat like this for quite a ways down the road. So hopefully that works out. And then the last thing that I want to show you guys real quick is this little HDPE plastic bracket that I made. I just cut a little rectangle out, mounted it up underneath the accessory plate with 2 bolts. It has lock nuts on the bottom, and the purpose of that is to hold my bump board for measuring fish. Just slides in there like that, nice and snug. Presses up against the hull of the kayak down here. That way it kind of keeps it in there nice and sturdy. I can easily reach back with my right arm from my seat, slide it right out, measure my fish, and then when I'm done, I can slide it right back in there. The reason that that was so important to me is because before I just had this thing laying down back here like that, and as I was rocking in the waves and moving around in the boat, what was happening is this eventually would fall down in there, and then I couldn't really turn around and easily grab it from my seat. So I was having to like halfway climb over my seat to get to it, which is not always the best option. So it's really nice just having that that little holder there for it. It looks kind of cheesy. I didn't have a router to, you know, correctly route the hole out. So I just drilled a couple holes and then I took a saw and, you know, sawed it out. So it looks kind of silly, but it's effective. It works great. And then also I added 2 more rod holders to the crate just so I have a place to put extra stuff. Alrighty guys, that's going to be pretty much all I have for you on today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful. The main focal point of the video, the Hummingbird Helix 5 DIY Sunshade project. I couldn't be more happy with how this turned out. I think it's going to work really well. It looks great. And I think it's going to be effective out there on the water. It really is the little things sometimes, guys. Just being able to see your Fishfinder screen because of a simple DIY sunshade. You're going to be able to see the reef structure down there. You're going to be able to see the bait, see the fish. And if you can see all that stuff, you're going to be able to more effectively drop your bait down there and target those fish. And you're probably going to drastically increase your catch rate as well. If you guys have a 2018 or previous Old Town Predator kayak, add yourself a rod holder next to the seat. That's going to make a world of difference. And of course, the little Rapala bump board holder back there by the crate. Just a fun little idea for you guys if you have a bump board and you don't know where to put it and you're always, you know, looking for a spot to set it down. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I always have fun doing this little DIY projects. You know, it's a blast for me to get creative and, you know, work with my hands and create something that I'll actually be able to use out there on the water and potentially catch more fish with. So as always guys, thank you all so much for coming back and supporting the channel. We actually just passed 100,000 video views, which is just mind-boggling that 100,000 people have clicked on my videos and watched them. That's awesome guys. Really, thank you so much. I appreciate it. All that does is motivate me to make better and better content for you guys. And honestly, I really just make this content not only for you guys, but because I just love getting out there, exploring the great outdoors, spending time outside, going fishing, and just being out there in the kayak. It's just so much fun. It's relaxing, and it's what really makes me happy, as well as filming and editing videos is something else that is a really fun hobby for me. So thank you guys so much for 100,000 views. Let's go for 100,000 more. And also, I just noticed that my camera has been doing this like weird jump thing on some of the footage like this entire time. I don't know why that is. Hopefully it's not too bothersome, but I am not going back and refilming this entire video. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully that little error does not bother you guys too much. And as always, I will see you guys on the next video.